the National Endowment for the Humanities, bringing you the stories that define us.
The State Board of Health urges the immediate reporting of the first suspicious cases in any community. As a matter of precaution, every arrangement is being made to see that no community will this year suffer from want of medical or nursing aid.
Churches, schools, shows closed. Epidemic puts ban on all public assemblies.
Here are a few precautions that it will be wise to observe during the prevalence of the epidemic. Stay away from the fellow who coughs, sneezes, or spits profusely. Don't kiss anybody in the mouth. Don't put fingers in your mouth. Don't use public drinking cups. Wash your hands before eating or before handling food which another person must eat. Open the windows of the schoolroom and the home, especially the sleeping room.
When we first heard about the virus, it was just one of those things, we hear about on the news, and we didn't ever think it was going to happen to us. We didn't think, oh yeah, we hear about other retirement homes being hit with this virus, and we just didn't think it was going to affect us too much. But then just overnight, it changed just like that. It made me think, what do I do that affects the people around me?
Obviously, history shouldn't repeat itself if it didn't have some gain to society in general.
So right now I've been looking at the death records for Butte from, this one starts at October 1918 to March of 1919. The first thing I wanted to show is this page. This is of a 14-year-old boy who was a student in Butte, and oftentimes from what I've looked at in the books before October, it will say there's a bunch of different kinds of pneumonia, and it will say cause of death was pneumonia, and once you get farther ahead it will start to change into influenza and then finally Spanish flu, but this is all of October. Once you get to November, the first page, cause of death is Spanish flu. This whole book that I've already looked at, I would say more than 3/4 of it is Spanish flu, cause of death. Yeah, what else?
We went to the Butte Archives last Friday. We went primarily because Butte was one of the main towns in Montana that had a very big exposure and impact to the epidemic of the time period, which was the Spanish flu of 1918 to 20. And while we were there, we found a lot of interesting information in terms of death records, people wearing masks, and all sorts of things. Businesses, schools shutting down. The State Board of Health urges the immediate reporting of the first suspicious cases in any community. As a matter of precaution, every arrangement is being made to see that no community will this year suffer from want of medical or nursing aid.
The 1918-1919 pandemic was a huge warning for us. It was no ordinary time.
The Spanish influenza pandemic in 1918 and 1919 was the largest pandemic to that point in time in the United States. Probably it's estimated about 25 to 30% of the population got infected minimally, probably more, and about 675,000 people died in the United States. So originally we started kind of scratching the surface and trying to find a little more information about the impact of the pandemic on Montana. So that was one big part of the article in the project, was to go review all those death records to see what was the impact on the state.
Flu takes two from family. Spanish influenza plucked from life two members of the family of John A. Letzi, a Portland lumberman. His wife and little son, who were taken from a westbound train in Butte Wednesday and who have died since then. One other child is ill with a malady in a local hospital. Mrs. Litzel died Wednesday afternoon. and little John passed away last night.
Many of the small towns in Montana had no hospitals at that time, so when the pandemic hit, public health and whatever local doctors they had were overwhelmed. They had no place to put people in hospitals because there were no hospitals, so they were using churches and schools and motels to make secondary hospitals. With Spanish influenza, for some reason or other, it was considerably deadly among young, healthy adults. And so 75% of the deaths in Montana in 1918, 1919 were among people 15 to 44 years of age. There were lots of stories in the newspaper where an entire family would come down ill. So there are some cases where documented where entire families passed away from Spanish influenza.
17 children whose parents died of influenza are at present in the Montana Children's Orphanage in the Valley, said State Superintendent J.V. Hawks yesterday. The parents of these children died during the epidemic. The kiddies were left without anyone to take care of them, but now homes are being found in which they will be adopted.
I work as a food server in the dining room of Touchmark, which is a retirement home here in Helena. So we ended up having to take a lot of preventive measures to make sure that those people were safe and weren't getting sick. And there were several cases that ended up happening, several residents that ended up getting sick, some of which that I knew. There's this one lady, she always asked for soy milk every meal. And she ended up getting COVID and passing away. One day we'd be there giving her soy milk, and then next week her number on the list was crossed off. It was more of one of those things like you hear about the numbers of people getting sick and dying, and then all of a sudden they're not numbers anymore. It's a person, it's a face, it's a name, somebody that you've met. I felt like I had a responsibility to these people to keep them safe. There was a time in the winter I got sick a couple times, and I would wake up with a sore throat, and I would think, oh, this is it. I've got COVID. I spread it to somebody. The main things that I thought about was, I really, really hope that I didn't get somebody else sick. We'd hear stories about how people just refuse to wear masks, and it makes me angry because by utilizing that choice, you're also putting other people in danger. So I really hope moving forward that other people will see that aspect of things as well, as it doesn't just affect you. It's your choices, they don't necessarily just affect you, they affect everybody. It's made me a lot more considerate of my actions and how they affect other people.
In all of these books, almost every person that has been recorded dead has said white, housewife, or minor. And so a lot of the people recorded in here, they have all been white from what I have seen, and a housewife or minor. They only recorded white people, and we know that's not the only people that were here. Like, Butte was the most diverse place in Montana at this time. So tells me marking down the death and whoever is making the decisions of death records, it's inherently racist that there's not anyone else in here, because lots of people died from Spanish flu.
My name is Lorelei Dreys. I'm a rising junior at Helena High School. I'm Asian. I'm a first generation immigrant from China, and we were reading these medical records from medical professionals, and they were blatantly racist towards the Asian community. And it was a different epidemic. It was in the late 1800s, but they called the Asians like pigs and very derogatory words. And then when the Spanish flu came in 1918, there was a lot of medical blame to like different ethnicities, different countries, similar to today, where people call COVID-19 the Chinese flu, or they assume that because it had originated in China, supposedly Chinese people were to blame for the fact that COVID became a worldwide pandemic, and the blame game just really started. You know the saying that like the darkest times will bring out the true nature of people? I feel like everyone's just so angry right now that they don't know what to do.
The flu situation somewhat improved. Schools will remain closed. No public gatherings of any kind are permitted, nor will they be for at least another week, and neither churches nor public schools will open until the epidemic has definitely subsided.
The goal from the community and the information that was coming out from the health officer and everything else is we need to work together and this is what you need to do. And so they stopped things. They asked people to stop. They asked people to wear a mask. Closing of schools, closing of bars, that didn't go over too well. And, it had an effect on all those things, and people worried about their economy, the livelihood, and all of that played into it. There's differences in the virus and how they're going to progress over time, and we're still in the midst of what's happening with COVID. But as far as the environment around what was going on and how people responded, there's a lot of similarities. The aspects of the effects it had on businesses, the xenophobia and difference between people, the blame game. A lot of those things are very similar between the two, and there's still a lot of lessons for us to learn.
Danger of another epidemic of influenza in Washington next winter is problematical. Although such an outbreak is possible, Dr. John B. Anderson said here today. He declared measures are being taken throughout the country to combat it. Means employed last winter, including closing of places of amusement and unessential business houses, probably will be employed.
I think I speak for a lot of young people when I say that, school and everything has been very unpredictable and just different all around. I mean, from online classes to just missing out on things like prom, school dances, football games. It's been very difficult. I definitely thrive more on the personal kind of face-to-face. So having that taken away for classes was just really hard, and hard to keep grades up, hard to focus and get that motivation to keep working. And then just when it comes to bigger milestones, I graduated this last year, and going out into the world, on its own is always scary, trying to find your path and kind of find yourself and find what you want to do in the world is very difficult. And now with all of what's happening in the world with COVID, it's even harder. You don't know what's going to happen in a month or two. Things could get better or they could get much worse. And I think it'll be interesting to see kind of the effects that'll have on people my age. I definitely do think we can learn from the past. I've already been learning a lot. We can learn emotionally how to handle it, learn how to be there for the students and for the younger people who have lost so much in this time, and learn maybe the effects and kind of how we can be there for each other and prevent that. I think it's interesting to know that our generation going through this, we're not alone. People have gone through it before and they've survived, and they've still managed to go out and thrive into the world. So I know for a lot of people my age, we feel helpless and we feel like we can't go out and be successful. But people have done it before, and I think it's really comforting to know that. There's an article here, it says there's 2 cases of flu reported, 2 cases of influenza. The first since the epidemic of last winter have been reported to the city health office. It's kind of interesting because it sort of seems like it's the start of the second wave, which is something that we're seeing now with the Delta variant and COVID-19.
In the United States in 1919 pandemic, 675,000 people died. We're getting close to that with COVID right now. I think it's over 620. I haven't looked at it as of late. I won't be surprised that we will pass that. It's a really sad number to see coming up, realizing that many people in the United States, we're going to have probably similar to this pandemic flu, people dying in the United States, and that's not even to mention what's going to be happening around the world. We really need to learn from our history. For many people, they vaguely might have known about the 1918-1919 pandemic, but that's something I think all people should have a good understanding to some extent, because not only was it something that had a big effect on our country and our world, but there were so many lessons from that that would have helped us in this one. It is a great example of not letting history repeat itself. And I think if more Americans had a better understanding of that, maybe we might have responded a little bit more uniformly.
I don't feel so much in this pandemic that we've really looked at our history and seen this is how this pandemic, like the Spanish flu, ended up. Like, it's starting all over again with COVID, and some people just aren't taking that seriously and letting history repeat itself. And I feel like the only way that we can rise as a whole world is to look around and say, I know that this situation is scary. I know that we might have all different beliefs, but this is real and we have to fight this together. And if we all just stick together and power through, we'll end up okay. But if everyone's on like different wavelengths and everyone's not agreeing, then we're not going to see improvement in a really, really long time. And we just need to all be in this together. And that's the only way we can move on, along with the fact that we have to drop our assumptions about other people, see them as individuals, like just as equal as you and I.
The National Endowment for the Humanities, bringing you the stories that define us.